Alrighty guys, so we are going to finish up our chapter 6 notes today, and you will be able to turn those in the following assignment. It should be directly below this video. So we talked about the light reactions in our first one. Now we're going to look at the Calvin cycle, which is also called the dark reactions. The Calvin cycle is a series of enzyme-assisted chemical reactions in which carbon dioxide is converted into ATP or converted into glucose using ATP. And just a reminder, you're focusing on the green parts for what you're going to write down. Carbon fixation is the synthesis of organic compounds from carbon dioxide, and a total of 3 carbon dioxide molecules must enter the Calvin cycle to produce each 3-carbon sugar that is needed to make organic compounds. Now this makes sense because each carbon dioxide molecule only contains 1 carbon. If we're making a 3-carbon sugar, we're going to need 3 carbon dioxide molecules, right? The Calvin cycle occurs within the stroma of the chloroplast. So it still happens inside of the chloroplast, but we're not in the thylakoid anymore. Carbon dioxide is going to diffuse into the stroma from the surrounding cytosol. Cytosol is in the cell. Cytoplasm is another word for that. The carbon dioxide is going to combine with a 5-carbon molecule called ribulose biphosphate. Don't get caught up in these crazy big words and abbreviations. The 6-carbon molecule that is formed is very unstable. That 6-carbon molecule is going to split into 2 3-carbon molecules called 3-phosphoglycerate, or 3-PGA. So we got this little RUBP. We add another carbon to it. It hates it, so it cracks right in half. Each molecule of 3-PGA is converted into another 3-carbon molecule called glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. For this to occur, each 3-PGA received a phosphate group from a molecule of ATP. The resulting compound then receives a proton from NADPH and releases a phosphate. This produces a G3P, an ADP, an NADP+, and a phosphate. These can later go through the light reactions to once again form ATP and NADPH. So what we make in the carbon cycle is going to help us with the light reactions. And what you made in the light reactions is going to be used in the Calvin cycle. It's that biochemical pathway word again. So this is just a written out diagram of what's happening here. We have our little ATP. We are going to be pulling off a phosphate, sticking it on, and that is going to make NADPH into NADP+. One of the G3P molecules is going to leave the Calvin cycle, and it's used to make carbohydrates, and these carbohydrates can store energy for later use. So here we have the Calvin cycle over here. It's just occurring in that jelly-like fluid that is inside of the chloroplast. The remaining G3P molecule is converted back into RUBP, and that can enter the Calvin cycle again to combine with carbon dioxide. So that is this section that's highlighted in pink over here. Again, I'm not going to show the videos in my video. I know they're hard to hear sometimes, and I don't want to create a really long video for you guys. The stomata, these are openings on the underside of leaves that allow for carbon dioxide to enter the plants and for oxygen to leave the plants. This little piece here you need to write down. I know I didn't have you write anything down with those steps, not because they're not important, but it's just a little confusing whenever you're reading through it on your own. And I'm not going to ask you any specific questions about what happens in each step. So when the stomata are closed or partly closed, the levels of carbon dioxide in the plant decrease and the levels of oxygen are going to rise. Both of these are going to inhibit carbon fixation in the Calvin cycle. So plants want to get rid of oxygen, they can't use it, and they want to take in carbon dioxide. When you close off that gas passageway, the oxygen is going to rise, and that's not going to allow the Calvin cycle to occur. So the stomata, this is a close-up version of a plant, and the stomata are those little kidney bean-like looking structures here. Right now they're closed, so that means that the gas exchange is not occurring. The plant is using whatever carbon dioxide it has inside of itself, and it's getting a little overrun with oxygen. Many plant species that evolved or that lived in hot, dry climates fix carbon through alternate pathways. Under hot and dry conditions, plants can rapidly lose water in the air through the stomata. Therefore, they cannot open the stomata to bring in carbon dioxide and get rid of the oxygen. So the C4 pathway is the first alternate pathway to the Calvin cycle, and it's going to allow plants to fix carbon dioxide into 4 carbon compounds. Plants that use the C4 pathway are called C4 plants, and they have a specific enzyme to fix carbon. During the hottest parts of the day, the C4 plants have their stomata partially closed, so they don't open them up all the way. The enzyme can fix carbon dioxide from a 4-carbon compound. Carbon dioxide is released, and then it's going to enter the Calvin cycle. Plants such as corn, sugarcane, and crabgrass use the C4 pathway. Others are those that evolved in tropical climates. So this is what happens in the C4 pathway. It happens in 2 different layers of the cell, or of the plant, in the mesophyll layer and in the bundle sheath cells. Got your Calvin cycle going on down here. Don't need to worry too much about exactly what's occurring in here. Just know that it's an alternate pathway and that the stomata are partially closed. And here's some pictures of what's going on, or what types of plants, rather, go through the C4 pathway. You got your corn up here. This is sugarcane, and this is what crabgrass is. You probably have this in your yard outside. The CAM pathway is an alternate pathway to the Calvin cycle that stands for crassulation acid metabolism. It's just easier to say CAM. In the pathway, CAM plants open their stomata at night to take in carbon dioxide, and they close them during the day. So it's kind of the opposite of what normally happens with a plant. Cacti, pineapples, and other plants in this type of hot, dry climate use the CAM pathway. Every year I see it, and every year I forget to fix it. Cactuses is not a word. It should be cacti. At night, the plants take in carbon dioxide and they fix it into a variety of organic compounds. During the day, carbon dioxide is released from the organic compounds so that it can enter the Calvin cycle. So the plants make everything during the day and they do their gas exchange at night. And because CAM plants have their stomata open at night, if the temperature is low, they grow fairly slowly. That's in comparison to plants that have their stomata open during the day. Plants like warm weather, and that's what helps them to grow. So if the temperature is low, they're dangerously close to going into a dormancy period. So at night, they have their gas exchange going on. During the day, they're going through the Calvin cycle. The light reactions of photosynthesis are sometimes referred to as the light-dependent reactions because the energy from the sun is required for the reactions to occur. I didn't have you write that down because I figure you can put those 2 things together. Light reactions, you need light. The Calvin cycle is sometimes referred to as light-independent reactions or the dark reactions because they do not require light directly. So here's a couple factors that affect photosynthesis. The first one is light intensity. Photosynthesis needs light in order to take place. As the intensity of light increases, more electrons are going to become excited, and that's going to be used in both of the photosystems 1 and 2. There is a point where all electrons have become excited, and once they're all excited, the rate of photosynthesis isn't going to increase. It's just going to plateau at the top. So during the morning hours, right now you can see that sun really beaming in, and all these electrons within the grass and the trees, they're becoming excited. Likewise, if the electrons are not excited and there's not a lot of light, then things are going to die off or grow extremely slowly. Carbon dioxide levels are the second factor, and they increase the levels of carbon dioxide. It can stimulate an increase in photosynthesis. After a plant has taken in so much carbon dioxide, there is a point where the photosynthesis can no longer increase. So that would be like you, for example, taking in oxygen. If you're hooked up to an oxygen machine and they turn the oxygen levels up all the way, your body isn't going to be able to take in any more oxygen just because they turn it up more. So there's no need to have it turned up to a full 100% for you because your body just can't use it all. Last factor is temperature. That's increasing temperature accelerates the chemical reactions involved in photosynthesis. This increases the rate of photosynthesis over a certain temperature range. Past that certain temperature range, it's going to get too hot. The stomata are going to close because the plant is going to lose all of its water. So that's going to limit the amount of carbon dioxide in the plant that can carry out photosynthesis. So here we have some temperatures in degrees Celsius. And if you're looking at growth, I would say 20 degrees Celsius is probably the optimum temperature. Look at how long that root is, and the plant is growing pretty well in addition. 10 degrees and 35 degrees, those are kind of the low and high ends. The plant isn't growing very well. And between 15 and 30 or 25, these are okay temperatures, but the plant optimally is going to grow around 20, even 25 degrees Celsius. All right, so that is it for our final section. Make sure that you go into Canvas and that you turn in all of your notes so that you get credit for doing them. And I will talk to you guys later.